Welcome to the Plan B CRNA podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Jones, and I'm so excited that you're here. The Plan B CRNA podcast is the only show made specifically for nurse anesthetists who are exploring options outside of their traditional career paths. This is the place to expand your mind and your goals as we uncover new ways to produce side income together. The mindset that we bring to any situation plays a key part in overcoming challenges and really enjoying our unique paths in life. On Thoughtful Thursdays, I like to explore emotional topics that are relevant to CRNAs and other providers. I think of this as my therapy, and I hope you learn some tips and tricks that you can use along your own journey. This episode is brought to you by On-Call Capital. On-Call Capital is dedicated to educating CRNAs and other healthcare providers about investing outside of the traditional stock market. On-Call Capital also provides opportunities for you, yes you, to create passive income and generational wealth while also lowering your taxable income through investments in the apartment and alternative investment spaces. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, make sure you do that right now so that you don't miss an episode. Thanks so much for joining me today, and now on with the show. Welcome to Thoughtful Thursdays on the Plan B CRNA podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Jones. And as always, I like to start these shows off with a quote that gets me thinking. Shinichi Suzuki once said, "Patience is the absence of expectation." Suzuki is a famous violinist who developed the Suzuki method of teaching, and he believed that all children could learn to play music, and he was one of the first to actually not screen applicants for their ability upon entering his school. So surely he had some expectations for his students, as many excelled at much earlier ages than previously thought possible. But I actually think this quote is just a nod to the relationship that exists between patience and expectation. And it caught my eye because I've noticed that I've had a good bit of impatience in my own life lately. There have been a few projects that just haven't panned out yet, or at least not nearly on the timeline that I had intended. At times, it just feels like nothing's going as I'd planned it all out, and that things are just taking forever. And we all feel like that at times, don't we? Whether my construction of various timelines was inaccurate due to my own assessments or inaccurate information received from others makes little difference. It still makes me want to pull my hair out. It's frustrating as hell. But when I take a closer look at my emotions surrounding my impatience, I can see that the frustration is directly tied to my expectations of how things would go. And again, whether or not those expectations were created by me or others doesn't change the fact that I believed in them and wished for them to be true. And when those expectations weren't met, I was left disappointed. And emotions like disappointment, frustration, and even regret can directly lead to impatience. But at the heart of that is expectation, which makes sense. I mean, they say if you expect nothing from others, then you'll never be disappointed, right? Easier said than done, though. I mean, if I go to a restaurant and I order a $40 steak and they bring me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich instead for the same price, am I really supposed to just say, well, at least I'm not going hungry because there are starving people out there? I mean, if someone clips my bumper, drives me into a ditch and just drives off, am I supposed to say, I guess they had a real emergency they had to get to, and at least I only have a broken ankle? A certain level of responsibility and expectation is necessary for a society to function. We expect others to obey basic traffic laws like stop signs. You can't just haul off and slug someone you don't like in the workplace. So the pendulum can't swing all the way to zero expectations, can it? Expect nothing? No, thank you. I have to expect something from the world around me. Now, I saw a quote that basically said, when you no longer care and no longer expect things to get better, life will become easier. I mean, yes and no. I get the sentiment. I'm sorry, but if I'm a single mom working 2 jobs to scrape by and I just throw my hands up and say, things will never get better, how does that actually make my life any easier? And if the pendulum swings the other way, from low to high expectations, well, how can we achieve great things if we don't actually hold ourselves to higher expectations? I'm not sure we could have gone to the moon, built skyscrapers, or developed life-saving medicine if we had small expectations. High achievement is often a direct result of high expectations. But it's completely fair to say that all of us are too hard on ourselves and others around us from time to time. We let that fester sometimes until it comes out, whether it's through snippy or mean comments or full-on venting to someone else. Like everything in life, there's a happy medium, and it's different for all of us. Diamonds are formed under pressure, and bread dough rises when you let it rest. The same boiling water that softens the potato will harden the egg. And the only way we know the way for ourselves is through a bit of experimentation. We don't hear what we don't want to hear, and we don't see what we're not ready to see. That's just part of life. Music hits differently to me than it used to because you go through stuff. I mean, I can find a silver medal from a race that I ran in 10th grade, and it hits me differently based on how old I am. Whether I'm 22, 32, or 52. It depends on what I've gone through in my life, right? We evolve as people. And I'm not the same person I was at 18, nor should I be. I have 20 plus years of experience to draw upon. Life happens differently to all of us, but what I take from my own experiences is up to me. And that's my reality. We can choose to be bitter about things that went wrong just as easily as we can choose to be optimistic about things that went the way we wanted. Anthony Hopkins actually has a great quote on regret that I think ties in nicely here. When asked if he had any regrets, he replied, "No, don't have time to regret. We move on because we are acceptable for what we are, not what we really think we should be. I'm accepted in myself by what I am, but not as I think I should be because that's a lie. I'm a sinner. I'm an old sinner. I've done some bad things. I've done some good things. So, you just forgive yourself and move on." Well, I'm working on that. It can be hard to do because sometimes I'm not very kind to myself, whether through unrealistic expectations or plain old self-loathing. Depression can be a real trickster. But I find that it's easier to be kind to myself when I show myself some grace. We can expect things to go right while also simply trying to learn from mistakes when they happen. We're all allowed to get something wrong from time to time. And I think we can only be alive if we're actually engaging with life's ups and downs, learning how to experience and survive. If I can set more realistic expectations for my future and those around me, that should allow me to then be more patient overall, right? Something for us to shoot for. That's going to do it for today's show. Make sure you check out the show notes and helpful links. And if you enjoyed what you heard, make sure you hit subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. I'd love to hear what you thought of the show. If you're interested in passive income opportunities with tax-advantaged real estate, visit my website at www.oncallinvestments.com or reach out to me on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Till next time, stay safe and take care of each other out there. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the Plan B CRNA podcast. If you haven't already subscribed and reviewed the show, I'd be honored if you took the extra time. It really helps to expand our reach and get the word out about the show. If you're a CRNA who is interested in sharing your story on our podcast, I'd love to have you. Please email me at bobby@oncallinvestments.com for more information. This episode was brought to you by On-Call Capital. They are dedicated to helping providers like you develop passive income and generational wealth through investments in the apartment and alternative investment spaces. Feel free to check out their website at www.oncallinvestments.com and subscribe to their free educational email series. You can find On-Call Capital on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also check out our YouTube page, where you'll find all of the show episodes along with other educational videos. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.